Hello guys, this discussion video is going to be on Garganacl, the rock, Garganacl. Whatever you want to call it, it is having its presence felt in the OU metagame, especially right now with World Cup qualifying going. We've seen such a high usage of not only Excalibur, but we've seen high usage in Garganacl, we've seen high usage in Among Us, of course, polarizing Pokemon like Great Tusk and King Gambit. But the one that is standing out to me the most is Garganacl. Garganacl currently has two extremely viable translation types, being Water and Fairy, as you're seeing in this replay that I am showing you guys. Water is currently being used. Water is probably the best Terra type. I feel like it's pretty safe to say because of the amazing typing that Water is currently in the metagame, as there are very few grass types that are able to offensively pressure, and very limited electric types that are able to offensively pressure that are also extremely viable in the metagame. Sure, there are mons like Sandy Shocks, or even what is the trying to think, the ancient form of Rizion just recently got. Let's go with Brelam for now. It's not able to catch it off the top of my head, but yeah, they're in the metagame, but they're not extremely viable and they're not extremely used. And you aren't going to put Pokemon on your team usually just to handle one Pokemon. That if you're in a metagame where you literally have a Pokemon on your team just for one particular Pokemon, and that Pokemon has no viability to handle literally anything else in the metagame, that's where you start to see that Pokemon being centralizing. Similar to how people were using the dog that could handle fire moves. I don't remember the dog off the top of my head. I'll show you guys. Let me pull it up for a real quick second. Starts with a D. Yeah, Dachshund. The Will Big Body is able to have the fire immunity. When people were using that Pokemon for like Chi-Yu, that's when you start to see a Pokemon be extremely centralizing. And so Garganacl is not particularly doing that, I would say, for a particular mon, but it is doing it in the sense of we are now forced to use the item that is Covert Cloak. And if you've been highly in tune with the OU metagame, you know that item basically negates, removes the ability for Salt Cure to knock you down a peg over time. You know, as you guys know, Salt Cure deals 1/8 max HP each turn and 1/4 if you're still a water type. Which is, I mean, that move is why Garganacl is so prominent. But as you guys know, we're not going to remove a move on a Pokemon that is literally only Garganacl has. It would have to, another Pokemon would have to learn it for us to then look at the move. That's how it works when it comes to suspecting, and we don't like to do complex bans because things get extremely messy down the line. So the thing about Garg, which has been an issue with making it seem like, or not even making it seem like, but pushing that, oh, this Pokemon is too much for the tier, is that it's had mediocre usage along with mediocre win rate in recent tour play, in particular SPL. Everyone was using either Cloak or they were applying such heavy offensive pressure that this Pokemon was not able to take off. But a lot of things have changed. I would say the presence of Walking Wake slowed down the metagame, along with the presence of Shedtail, where the metagame for a period of time was literally just either you run Shedtail or you run a balance that is able to withstand the pressure of Shedtail. And so you either had an extremely hyper offensive team or you had a basically team that was going to be slow but handled all the scary offensive mons. And so when the metagame started slowing down to a halt, and then there was the removal of Shedtail getting quick banned by us, the council, you then started to see okay, well, offense starting to fall off at an extremely alarming rate because of Pokemon like Garganacl. Of course, it has help with Dondozo, Skeledirge. But I would say Garg is the one that stands out the most because Skell and Dondozo, they can apply pressure to you offensively, but they don't do it in the way that this Pokemon is able to. You're not. It's very rare that you're going to be able to see in high level play and tournament play a Dondozo or Skeledirge sleep. Not to say that those Pokemon can't pull it off, especially a Dondozo, like we've seen it happen, but they're not able to do it at the rate and at the efficiency that Garg is able to. Now, I will say, Garg is very Terra reliant. So the drawback being that, okay, if you're going to use Garg, you're going to have to deal with the fact that you're going to be burning your Terra most likely pretty early in the game, or if you do burn your Terra on another Mon, then most likely it will not be as effective. But because of how effective Salcure is and how it's able to curse up on certain Mons and set up against certain play styles pretty easily, like hyper offensive, like Sun, etc., Guard can be an overwhelming presence in a lot of matchups, to the point where you find yourself having to dedicate potentially an entire core just to making sure that the Mon doesn't overwhelm you. And then there's the fact that you sometimes in the builder, it's very hard to account for not only water but also Fairy Guard, because even though we mostly talked about Water Garg in this discussion so far, Fairy Garg is just as annoying. Fairy Garg is more so a defense, has more so annoying defensive capabilities more so than offensive sweeping capabilities. But if you're running, which in my opinion is the proper set, which is Stealth Rock, Soft Cure, Curse, along with Recover, you're able still to offensively pressure teams just as much as defensively annoy them. Being able to stop Baxcalibur from DDing up and sweeping, and just being able to be a nuisance to Mons like Bulk Up Great Tusk, or being able to switch into threats such as Garchomp, etc. safely, which is not an easy task for a lot of Pokemon these days. It just really makes it truly stand out as an amazing Pokemon currently in the metagame. So one thing that stands out the most currently as its best counter, of course, is the item Covert Cloak, but particularly paired with the Pokemon that is Gholdengo. Gholdengo is out of this world. Its usage, I feel like, has been an uptick. I don't have the numbers for World Cup in front of me just yet, of course, because qualifying is still going. But I feel like I've seen a lot of Gholdengos, and not only have I seen a lot of Gholdengos, but I've also seen a lot of Covert Cloaks on the Gholdengos, and I've seen a lot of Covert Cloaks also on Corviknight as well. So I would say the metagame is doing what the metagame always does. And, well, we don't see Garg, or we don't see Garg being such an enormous presence. So it's like, okay, it is what it is. We will, ignore it, right? We'll act like it doesn't exist. We'll run what we should be running, which is better items on our Pokemon. For example, on Corv, you should be running Leftovers or Rocky Helmet. Or on Gholdengo, you should be running Leftovers or Air Balloon, whatever you choose to run. But because the enormous pressure that Garg can then now put on our teams, and how it is now such an enormous presence because of the removal of Chateau in the metagame, and we have such a metagame that is now either slowed down to a halt, with balance being of such an importance and having such a chokehold in the metagame, or even if you do choose to still run HO or run offensive builds, you have to account, of course, for Garg and have to attempt to try to overwhelm it, which is not an easy thing, because I feel like what a lot of people forget is that Garg has teammates. I feel like when people view Garg in the lens, they just view it as, okay, we can take down Garg, and we've taken down Garg, right? But it becomes a thing of like, at what cost? Yeah, you took down Garg, but you may have lost 2 or 3 Pokemon along the way, and then the rest of your opponent's team still has like 5, right? And those 5 are able to overwhelm your 4-3, and they take the W. So yeah, you were able to take down Garg, but did you win the match? Now, don't get me wrong, there's tons of counterplay to Garg. There's Encore, there's Sub, there's running Covert Cloak. There's different things. But one thing that is different, I feel like, compared to previously, where like people were like, oh, well, you just throw Covert Cloak on anything, it'll all work out, and throw on Toxapex, etc. Throw on a Gholdengo. It's like, well, yeah, but now Garg is running Curse, and now it's running E-Quake, and it's able to hit those Gholdengos super effectively, to the point where now, okay, if you're a Gholdengo, you want to run like Terra Water, so it's not able to hit you super effectively, and Saltcure is doing literally nothing to you because you have your Covert Cloak intact. Another thing, the issue with Covert Cloak is, of course, you have to keep it intact. Why I don't love Corviknight as an option to run Covert Cloak on is because most likely Corviknight is going to get knocked off. Like, it is a very susceptible Pokemon to get knocked off by a Great Tusk. As Great Tusk is usually the thing that's supposed to handle Great Tusk is Corviknight. And with, of course, Great Tusk usage being over 50%, generally speaking, half of the time, or most of the time, you're going to be facing a Great Tusk paired with Garganacl. So you're in an uncomfortable position a lot of times. Along with, another popular thing that used to run Covert Cloak being Toxapex. But Toxapex can't handle Earthquake and Curse Pressure Garganacl. It's going to get its recovers wasted now that recovers only APP. It just is. It's a Pokemon that truly can just wear down your team over time. And then there's the whole aspect of, okay, if you decide to run Covert Cloak, that means that you don't have heavy duty boots. So potentially, if you're facing, let's say, a Garganacl team that also is a Hazard Stack team, and it's able to apply pressure to you, because that's how Pokemon works. Like, your opponent is trying to set up opportunities for its Mon to get the best chance of winning. So if you're able to Hazard Stack, you're able to apply that pressure with hazards, and then you're able to make a simple double. Like, Gholdengo, let's say you get like a hazard and spike up, and the Gholdengo comes in expecting Assault Cure or whatever, and then let's say you double to like your Cinderace or your Sandy Shocks or whatever other Mon or Tinglu, whatever you have to pressure a Gholdengo. It's like, okay, well, I need to switch out, or I'm going to be put in a spot where I've lost my Gholdengo. But that's an important turn because the Gholdengo has taken hazards. That means the Gholdengo has lost HP, so that means that you can keep on applying pressure with your Garganacl later on in the game. Like, there's so many things that you have to keep in mind when it comes to that. But yeah, I mean, that's currently where I stand with Garganacl. Like, we have great mons like Hydreigon that are able to also take advantage of Garg, which are rising in usage. But the thing about Hydreigon is Hydreigon has to get itself safely and has to put itself in a position where it can safely get in, because if it can't strictly switch into can't straight switch into Assault Cure. That would completely defeat the purpose of it being able to beat Garg. It's not able to pull it off at all. And there's so many other replays that I can, go over and showcase how good Garg is. I mean, it's a great Pokemon. I feel like it's a Pokemon that you really and rarely will be in a position where it's unable to accomplish anything. Really, the only time you wish you didn't have a Garg is, generally speaking, when you face a Covert Cloak user. And I'm not sure if it is good for us as a tier to depend on such an item just to handle this one thing. Because honestly, if we're being honest with ourselves, Cloak really has no other usage or not much viability other than handling Garg. Of course, this is just my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like, as I said, I've named ways you can handle Garg. I mean, we can go over in the comments different ways that you're handling Garg, and I would love to hear from you guys. I don't think that it is at a point where it needs to be banned, because as we're seeing, as the metagame is going on, we're just kind of adapting back into how it was when Garg wasn't quote-unquote viewed as that great. We're starting to see Cloak on so many different types of mons. We're seeing Sub-Hydreigon usage rise up to peak once again. Of course, you can run Hazard Stack on your team to try to and like Tinglu to Whirlwind it out and pressure it out, or shoot, maybe we'll even start to see Tinglu start to run Taunt to prevent it from recovering on it. Like, that is a possibility as the metagame continues to adapt and we continue to see how much of an effective mon it is, because it is so hard to slow down not only a Pokemon with such with an amazing, of course, recovery option and recover, but not being able to status it in any way, along with the phenomenal bulk that it possesses. Real quick before we move on, Garg Generally speaking, of course, this is not accounting for like Terras, etc. If your Garg is water, it can handle Gholdengo, Ceruledge, Cinderace, Dondozo, Greninja, Iron Moth, Walking Wake, and Dirge. And then if your Garg is fairy, it can handle Vescalibur, Dondozo again, Dragapult, Dragonite, Garchomp, opposing Water Garganacl because of course Salcura is able to knock it down basically 25% every single time it stays in. It seems every turn it stays in. Great Tusk, Meow, Scrata, and Roaring Moon, of course. Now, don't get me wrong, some of those Pokemon, if you run a particular Terra, you can attempt to overwhelm and overpower it. Cool. Nonetheless, it's easier said than done. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I mean, how the metagame keeps evolving, one thing that keeps on sticking, I guess, its head out per se, is Garg. Like, every single ban, every single change, and the way the metagame adapts, we find ourselves looking at Garg. When Sun was at true peak, when Walking Wake was almost like on every single team, Garganacl Water was like a staple to have on your team. And Garganacl Water is still a staple for certain teams, certain structures to have because of the presence of Walking Wake in the tier. And yeah, I just feel like Garg is an amazing Pokemon, and you guys really should use it. I mean, of course, if Garg is not your style, I completely understand. I can see you getting completely tired and bored of it as a Pokemon, because you know, some players just don't want to click Salt Cure 15, 16 times in a match and watch the Pokemon get whittled down over time. But I honestly do think that it is an amazing Pokemon, and I think its presence, as much as it is annoying in the tier, it is needed, as much as I know a lot of you guys despise it. But yeah, no, this is just a discussion. We're just going over Garganacl and how it is just, you know, Garganacl, and how it's just an amazing Pokemon in this tier currently. And you know, hey, you guys let me know in the comments. Do you guys think it should be banned? Do you guys think it should be suspected? Do you guys think it's too much in the tier? I think another thing that's important is Home is on the horizon. It should be coming out very soon. So that hopefully will solve our Garg problem, kind of. And shoot, some of you may not even feel like it's a problem, but yeah, let me know. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I really appreciate having different Pokemon people come to the channel, Pokemon fans come to the channel and give their opinions, and yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's your boy NJ. I'm out. Peace.